Hi, I'm Lenora. I'm the creator of The Bitchy Bookkeeper.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm the author of The Age of the Child.
Hi, I'm Isabel, founder and firebrand of The Uprising Spark, and we are the 3 founding nun-mothers of Childfree Girls. In today's episode, we are going to discuss a very polarizing subject, and we're going to try and give you guys, our audience, the point of view from each of our countries, because we actually found out by talking about this subject that is actually very different. We're talking about abortion and how it impacts, abortion regulation impacts on the child-free women's lives.
I believe that the woman, myself, I have the choice of what's happening inside my body, whether I would decide to keep a child or terminate the child. I believe that that is my choice, and I live in a country where that is my right to choose that. And that is what I believe for all living individuals. Abortion is legal here in Canada. I just found out that it's not always covered by our healthcare system when you go to a private clinic. So, for example, out east in New Brunswick, they are closing or threatening to close with this new law or current law. They're threatening to close the private clinic, which means you could have an abortion at a hospital, but there be no private clinic to do it. And I do believe that the New Brunswick healthcare system would pay for the abortion that's performed at the hospital, but it would not cover the costs of a private clinic. In Alberta, where I live, which is in the west, our healthcare card covers abortions, whether they're in the hospital or whether they're at a private clinic. And there's one private clinic in my city, and of course, many hospitals. I live in Calgary. And there's another private clinic in Alberta. And when I went on the website, it said that they listed 3 or 4 different provinces in Canada that cover abortions with the current healthcare cards. So while it is legal to have an abortion here, I don't believe there's any restrictions on it. Anyone that wants to have an abortion does need to do a little bit of research as to what's going to be covered. Like if you don't have a healthcare card in your province, like if you're an immigrant, for an example, there will be a cost for that. So, and again, whether it's a private or a hospital, you have to check. So it's not, the information is kind of scattered. You know, we are pro-choice. The other thing too is that not all of our government leaders are pro-choice, and there is a great website that lists all of the current politicians, whether it's your MLA in your area, or like the Prime Minister or premiers, what we call our provincial government here. They're all listed by pro-choice, pro-life, or some of them don't put their stance. But also, that's a really good resource to find out in your area who is pro-life and who is pro-choice, because that could help you decide who you're going to vote for. So that's currently the situation here in Canada.
Here, according to a poll that was taken recently, in 2018, it was split about 50-50 for and against legal abortion. And in the last year, I guess it's gone up to 58% are in favor of keeping abortion legal, and fewer are. So it's gone up 8% for those who are supportive of abortion rights. I haven't heard any stories very, very recently, but we did have stories of people like pharmacists denying birth control pills to people who go there pick them up because it goes against their religion to give hormonal birth control. So this is their job to give drugs that people are bringing prescriptions for, but they're saying, no, I don't believe in birth control pills, and so I'm not going to give them to you. You're going to have to go somewhere else. And so there are all these little ways to reduce access to birth control. People don't want their kids learning about birth control in school. They don't want them finding ways to not get pregnant, because if you're telling them how not to get pregnant, I think the reasoning goes that you're also then inviting or encouraging them to have sex. as if they're not going to figure it out on their own.
Well, that's encouraging. In my country, Colombia, well, I've already said this several times before, but we have a very traditional culture and societal rules in general that are very rooted in Catholicism. So the church here, even though it's separated from the state, still has a lot of power. And they use that power to, voice their concerns over, you're killing a human being and whatnot. And anyway, the abortion was actually legalized in Colombia not long ago. I can't remember the year, but it wasn't long ago. But only for 3 instances: rape, if the fetus comes with a very serious malformation, or something that will affect the growth of that human being when it comes out of its mother, or if it poses a health issue to either the mother or the fetus, the actual pregnancy and then the birth. Those are the only 3 instances. Now, people who are pro-choice in Colombia know that getting an abortion here is way easier than people who are pro-life think it is. By the way, they don't even call it abortion. They call it voluntary interruption of pregnancy. So it's very politically correct. It's very easy. I know several people who have had abortions in Colombia, and they tell me it's just very easy. You can always find a doctor that will allow it, or even there's a governmental agency. Well, it's not really an agency, but it's sort of like Planned Parenthood in the States in a way. And their services are in line with reproductive health for men and women. And they also perform abortions. And there's another foundation that also perform. But basically what they do is they sit you down, and then they ask you, with a psychologist sits you down, and they're like, why do you want to have an abortion? And then you tell them why, and then you get your abortion, basically. And it's not expensive. And it's done in a safe place, and it's done, with doctors and nurses. So it's not really hard to get an abortion. I think people who have children that they don't want, and they would have want to abort or try to abort by their own means, is because they really don't know that they have access to these kind of resources that, even though they are quote unquote illegal, it's still very easy to get access to an abortion.
Is it hard to get birth control in the States now with what's going on, as far as
no, it's
that
not.
Hasn't changed anything?
No.
The fight is not against birth control.
Not
right?
yet. No.
Not yet. Okay.
No, you do have people arguing that hormonal, people like the very, very far right conservatives will try to argue that hormonal birth control is abortive.
It wasn't until I got my IUD that I actually started to pay attention to what my cervix was. And I looked because I am terrible with bodily everything. Like, I know what my body parts are called, but because I've never wanted to be pregnant, and I've never, periods gross me out. I'm a female, but everything about the female body grosses me out. Like breastfeeding grosses me out. All that stuff grosses me out. I've never actually paid too much attention just how to deal with it. Right. So once I got, before I got my IUD put in, I started researching the female anatomy and realized how much I did not know. So it's just because I prefer not to know. I just know how to prevent things. But, I was like, oh, okay. And then when your cervix is open a tiny bit, you're like, fuck, that hurts. So, well, really, what do we know? Unless we're doctors, I kind of blindly went through life without knowing a lot of stuff.
I know.
I
knew, yeah. So we had very intense sexual education classes in school. But of course, they were followed by, but God telling you kids, please don't have sex before marriage. But anyway.
Yeah, and when you're young, there's a lot of stuff that goes over your head. I mean, we had sex ed too from, grade 5, I think. And by then I already had my period, so I wanted to sit it out because I was too embarrassed to watch all that stuff. Because it was happening to me and nobody else in my grade, But you don't really get it until later anyway.
Yeah.
As far as understanding your body, it's not until, time has to go by before you're really comfortable, I think.
Yeah, well, or unless you're suffering from a health condition.
Yeah, exactly.
Health condition like we are. You are as well, right? PCOS.
Yes. Yeah, I kind of forget about that, but that's partly why I got the IUD, because it's supposed to help. Well,
Yep.
it took away my periods for the most part. But yeah, it's not until like mid-30s is when I really started to pay attention to my body and started realizing, like, okay, I'm feeling this pain. This is what ovulation is. Okay, like I knew what ovulation was, but recognizing in my own body what was happening. I just kind of think with everything that's going on everywhere, you know, if it's not until your mid-30s, let's say, that you start paying attention to your own body and you're realizing you have a choice. By then, for a lot of people, it's too late because they already have a brood of kids and they didn't realize that all these options existed, and they didn't maybe realize what exactly birth control is doing, because we learn the basics, but unless you're interested in being a doctor, you don't really pay too much attention. So, you know, it's kind of like they do that on purpose to keep us in the dark about what really goes on with your own body even. And then all these laws that say you can't do this and you can't do that.
I think here they don't want to. I got sex ed when I was in school. I'm not sure if it's because I was in a school overseas, like a government school versus a regular stateside school. I'm not sure, but we did get the whole, you know, obviously we were taught that the only 100% effective birth control is abstinence, but that's just basic science. I mean, everyone should know that. But we also got the effectiveness percentages of the pill and the condom and IUDs. I don't think there was a plan B yet. I know there was an abortion pill in Germany because I remember hearing stories about it. It wasn't in the States yet. And we're not talking about plan B. We're talking about the actual, you know, the really good abortion pill. So we did get that education. I would be interested to know what kids are being taught in either middle school or high school now about sex ed and birth control. I do know that people will get all in an uproar about like offering condoms in the nurse's office or something, or talking too much about sex, because they really do think it's the same as saying, here, go have sex, because there's some kind of disconnect. And this is where I think child-free people are actually a really good resource for parents, because it seems like for some parents or certain kinds of parents, there's like this wall that comes over them. They completely forget how not to be a parent. They completely forget what it was like before they became parents, and they don't remember that you don't need teachers giving you condoms to attract you to sex, unless you're Lenora, who waited until 26. But like, a lot of teenagers already know that sex is a thing. They're already drawn to it. They don't, you know, showing them what a condom is and showing them how to use it and teaching them about responsible sex and safe sex, how not to get diseases, how not to make a baby when you can't take care of it, how not to make a baby that your parents are going to have to take care of if they're against abortion. I don't know. It's like there's this weird thing in them that teaching kids how to protect themselves sexually is the exact same thing as saying, go, be free, have sex. And I think that leads to so many problems.
I think in my case, that when you bring up my name for that, it's also because of religion too. Now, I was taught more to believe in the religious side of things than what I was being taught in school. So, I mean, I waited till I was 26 years old, so, you know, yay for me. But religion, I guess in my particular case, my specific religion that I grew up in, which has no name, you don't talk about sex at all, let alone preventing sex, because you're only having sex when you're married, and it's okay to have sex when you're married because you're going to have kids. End of story. That's basically it. The sex ed in that religion.
Going back into to the abortion subject and how it relates to the CF community, my thought, and we were discussing this before we started recording, is so child-free people know how to take care of themselves in terms of, you know, preventing pregnancy and getting birth control, however it is, because we have very clear that we don't want to have children, so we have to find the best way not to have them, right? And still enjoy sex. And some of us actually have also talked to doctors, you know, seeking voluntary sterilization surgery, because that's the easiest thing to just make sure that you're never going to reproduce. And in my case, it was very easy. But I know that many women, especially in the States, have a really hard time finding a doctor that will, say, okay, I'll perform a surgery on you, and not impose their own selfish thoughts and values upon these women. Like, oh, you're going to change your mind, or what if your future husband wants to have kids? Like, oh, fun, you know. So it's neither or. I mean, you can't have the surgery that you want because you don't want to have children, but you can't abort either. So you got pregnant. Oh, that's too bad. Can you imagine a child-free woman? Like, how traumatizing would it be for someone who is 100% child-free and set on it to become pregnant and have a baby? And that's why the system is so fucked up. And this is something that you mentioned once, Kristen. You said people care about the fetus, but after it's born, nobody gives a fuck. Right. They're born and they're thrown into the, family that didn't want them, in the case of somebody who wanted an abortion performed and couldn't get it, or into a life. Not all the children. Some children are actually born in good families. I'm not, just some of them just end up in really horrid conditions. So why care so much about a being that can't even think, can't even breathe by itself? So think about that being and not pay attention to the ones that are already on this earth. Why is it that governments are so concerned about controlling our bodies, but not doing anything about the kids that are being abandoned every year?
Well, all I know is that a fetus is potential. A fetus could be anything. It could be the next president. It could be I don't think they care, though. I mean, I really don't think they care what it could be. I just know that they have this romantic idea of what a fetus or an embryo is. There was a conversation on a Facebook page of a Facebook friend. Somebody was complaining that the word fetus was used instead of baby. And they were suggesting that the use of the word fetus for an actual biological fetus was like being emotive with the words, or like the words were being played with to make it seem not so bad to get an abortion. Because, well, sure, if you use the word fetus instead of baby, I mean, sure, abortions don't sound so bad. I mean, it's not a baby. If you look at any chart of the evolutionary or gestational stages from, point of conception to birth, it isn't a baby until it's popped out. It is technically an embryo. It is technically a fetus. And it's actually the use of the word baby on the side of the anti-choice people who are trying to play with the language to make abortion sound way worse than it actually is from a moral perspective. I don't know. I think it must be the potential that a baby has, or all this symbolism they attach to a pregnancy, or what, it's a miracle, even though every living thing can reproduce, whether by itself or with a partner.
See, when you say potential, that's how I feel about the people that are still on this earth. I don't care how old they are, whether they're 5, whether they're 15, whether they're 50, or whether they're 98. I think maybe this stems because I did not enjoy childhood. Like, I enjoy adulthood so much better. And I feel that if people understood the potential you have as an adult, even from, let's say, the age of 5 on, like once you start thinking for yourself, I believe so much. And I'm not talking about like we're all here to cure things or to do amazing, grand things for humanity. I'm just saying, like, there's a potential for everyone to enjoy life. And by everyone, I mean those that are currently living, like those that are already here.
But living people aren't romantic. You can't romanticize existing people.
I know, but I wish that would change, because my message is like, hey, like, we're here. Let's enjoy things. Let's create things that don't require diapers, that can inspire other people around you in your own community. And yeah, you're right. It isn't romantic. And it's not,
I think existing people are about as boring to pro-lifers as ongoing wars are right now are to movie makers and writers. Like, people don't want to produce plays or make movies generally about, on like current war situations, because we're living that now. We see what it's like. It's not all that exciting. But Civil War, Vietnam, like, you don't have Iraq war reenactors. They're all Civil War reenactors because it's all, you can only imagine what might have been. And that's so much more interesting than what is.
True. But isn't that lazy in a way?
Yes.
It's like, so the people that are currently living, well, everyone's just given up on them and we're just going to slog through life and just get by, and okay, maybe let's pop out a few children that will save humanity and that will give us hope again and give us a reason to live and give us reason to smile. I don't see them that way. I'm just like, I see that for the current people, and again, maybe I'm the only one. I don't know, and it's
well,
not,
that's all those babies are going to be. All these potential babies, they're just going to be us. They're not going to be special. They're just going to be the same people those people hate right now.
But don't you dare tell that to someone who just gave birth to a new baby.
No, sure, they love their baby, but no one else cares.
That's true, because the ones that want you to have children are not going to be the ones that are going to be around helping you with the child. Ever. They're not part of the village. They're just the peanut gallery going, oh, have a baby. It's the best thing ever. And then they go on their merry way to do whatever they are doing.
Okay, I have a question. If you guys found out that you're pregnant now, would you abort?
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm 36, so technically would be having a geriatric pregnancy. I think it's 35 is what they consider geriatric and up. I've never wanted to be a mother. Motherhood, no. And even stepmom, I've discussed this before, that I do not want to mother or be responsible for a child. A big part for me is I don't want my DNA passed on. I even as a kid, before I could voice it, I felt like I was here to end everything in my lineage. Like, it was going to end with me. I don't even judge myself for saying I'd have an abortion, because I'm just clear. And I say that if any potential relationship, I say that, make that very clear, that that's where it's going.
Well, Isabel, would you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, I got the surgery and I'm a lot more, like, I feel calmer now than I did before, because before I had the surgery, I would literally take a pregnancy test. Even though I used birth control, I was so paranoid that I would take a pregnancy test every month or so just to make sure that I wasn't pregnant. And
that's common. I'm seeing more child-free people saying that online, that's what they do. Yeah. I didn't know people did that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was scared. And especially because my period doesn't come like regularly like most women. So I never know if it's, just my ovaries acting up or if, I'm carrying a child. I didn't know that. So I had to, I didn't have to, but I decided to take pregnancy tests all the time. And fortunately, none of them came out positive ever. And then when I consulted because before I got the surgery, I talked to my therapist and I told her, I'm going to get the surgery. And I was a little bit apprehensive in a way. It was kind of like, I know this is my choice, but I know it's also final in a way. Yeah. And she said to me, well, I can tell you that, she's known me for 10 years now. And she said to me, I know that if you had to, if you actually got pregnant and had to abort, that would be very, very traumatic for you. And the issue is that would make me, not only that, but that would make me an even worse mother because I know that it would affect me, like my mental health would be affected and I would resent that child and I would be just so horrible. No, I can't. No. So yeah, I would definitely do it. Definitely. And I have, it's funny. I've had this conversation with many other friends and in Colombia, and they have all told me, "Oh, I'll come and hold your hand." It's such a. In my circle of friends, we all understand how important it is for us to honor our choice of becoming a mother or not. So yeah.
I read an article. You reminded me of something. There's a woman who moved to the province where I live, and that's what she does. She accompanies women to the clinics and she drives them there. Like, she does it completely free of charge, as far as I know. She drives them to the clinic, she waits for them, and she drives them home, and she gives them like a care package. Like, she's there as an emotional support system for anyone that's doing that, which I think is amazing, actually.
Yeah, there's many women who do that, actually. If you go into the groups, the Childfree groups, I can't remember exactly which one. There was a post, and then all these women were like, I'll come with you as well. And everyone was posting where they were located, mainly in the US. So I know that there's a lot of, sometimes our community can be a little bit difficult, especially towards parents. But there is a lot of sorority between child-free women that I've seen, especially in that regard. And it is that even if you feel that you have nobody that will come with you and hold your hand, there's always at least someone who will do it, even if they don't know you.
And the three of us are in a really good position because we're adults. So we can, where it's legal, we can get the operation, we can get the abortion, we can get the birth control. But it's really easy to remember when I was a teenager and was sexually active. I could get on the pill because there was a free clinic for teenage girls. I think boys could go too, but we're the only ones who could get on the pill. So we could go there and get on the pill. I don't know how easy it is for teenagers now to get on the pill. I don't know what their access is to free clinics or to, because I could go without my parent after a certain age. I forget what age it was. Maybe it was just as soon as I needed the pill. I don't remember, but I know you could do it secretly because there are a lot of parents who don't want their kids to be on birth control, which just means the kid then isn't on birth control, isn't at greater risk of being pregnant. I feel really bad today for teenagers who may not have easy access to hormonal birth control, who have parents who don't want them to get on it, because they're the ones who have no choices. They can easily be told, no, you can't be on birth control. And then of course they're going to go have sex anyway. And then their parents can dictate what happens to the fetus. It's a scary thing. I used to be on the pill as a teenager, but I would still take pregnancy tests all the time. I would envision what would happen if I got pregnant. I would dread the thought of having to tell my dad that I was pregnant. I was pretty sure I would throw myself down the stairs or ram myself into a counter to try to, miscarry or terminate somehow. It was just the worst thing in the world would have been to get pregnant. So if there are any people watching this who are currently living with their parents, regardless of what they tell you, use condoms, find a way to get hormonal birth control if you can. Dry humping may be able to get you pregnant if there's only a layer of underwear between you, because sperm is microscopic, and if it's close enough to your vagina when he ejaculates, and I'm using scientific terms on purpose because I don't know what your words are and I don't want to sound stupid, it can still happen. So be very, very careful with semen. Also, anal sex can also lead to pregnancy because the stuff drips, comes out. It can come out and it can go right back up. So don't think that's safe either. Also, stop calling anal sex a way to have sex and still be a virgin. If you've had anal sex, you're not a virgin, so that conversation just needs to die. You're also not a virgin if you've had oral sex. Sex is sex. It's not, the vagina is not some magical mystery, funnel for the great all and mighty penis. Sex is sex. You're not a virgin if you've had any form of sex.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I didn't wait till I was 26 to be virginity, technically speaking. But you make excellent points, because I do want to say, and again, I can only speak for anyone living in Canada, and I want to specifically say to anyone who is an immigrant that may not have a healthcare card, because I have been contacted by someone who is an immigrant who lives in the East. Abortions are not covered. There is a fee, but you can have access to them. And I would encourage anyone, I guess it doesn't matter where you live, if anyone does need to talk about, has no clue what to do, is too scared to Google because I think their parents are on the search engine, searching their history and stuff. Go
to a library and Google there.
Yeah, if they want to find a clinic in your area, or even just for birth control, because here, like in this city in Alberta, you can go and you can get free testing. For STDs, you can get access to birth control. You can get an abortion without your parents' consent, without them even knowing. Everything is kept private. So here we have the options for anyone of any age who's dealing with any of that, whether they need the pill or not. There's places that you can go. It's actually pretty easy to find. So.
I was talking earlier about how the worst thing when I was a teenager, the worst thing in the world I could imagine was getting pregnant and having to tell my parents that I was pregnant. I heard of teenagers, or maybe one teenager when I was in high school. Some girls will think being pregnant is so bad that they'll kill themselves if they are pregnant. I just want to say that being pregnant may be the worst thing at that time, but it is not technically the worst thing in the world. So if you do find yourself pregnant and you aren't able to get an abortion, or you aren't able to get a Plan B pill or the abortion pill, if you're stuck being pregnant, it's not as bad as dying. So have the baby, put it up for adoption. If your parents are the ones who insist you have it, then they can have the baby and you can go live your life. There's always a way to make it work. There is always adoption. If your parents won't let you adopt it out, then they apparently want another baby. They can only hold you for so long. But it's a temporary situation that will resolve in some way with you still living.
God, I would not want to be a teenager again. Because it just seems like it feels, being a teenager always feels like your world is just your own little world, and there's nothing beyond that. Even if you have dreams and goals, you do feel like you're stuck there. And I'm not talking about being pregnant and being a teenager, just being a teenager in general. But that's the thing. It's like there's no encouragement that, hey, you can go, like, life goes on. You can go further than those around you. You can leave your hometown. You can be like, you don't have to worry about settling down, getting married, having kids, whatever. There's a whole other world beyond your little bubble, even if you can't see it. There still is. And it just seems like, taking away abortion rights or bringing in the guilt or whatnot, it's unfair to those that are currently in their development stage of becoming adults. It just sets them up for, I keep saying, repeating the same cycle of insanity, because I think there's no other option, or no one's telling them that there's other options available.
That is it for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed hearing us talk about abortion. We know it's a very polarizing subject. We would love to know what you think about it. If you have any questions or comments, you can always put them down here in the comments, or you can write an email to childfreegirls@gmail.com. And you can find us in social media, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. We're on TikTok now. And so we hope that you start following us, and, whatever questions you have or any comments, we'll be happy to hear from you.